This week, Fortnite dropped a new reload map, which is called Slurp Rush. Really importantly, this is the only map that's going to be played at the FNCS ProAm, so players really need to learn it. And there's already been a few tournaments. So towards the end of this video, I'm going to talk about the teams and who I think is going to win. Not do a full prediction, because I'm going to do that closer to the time when we see a drop map. But I'm also going to look through some of the tournaments that have already happened on this map to try and see what some of the best players are doing on this and what kind of strategies they've already cooked up. All right, first things first. What is the distribution of players looking like here? Unsurprisingly, Slurp... Okay, that's why. I was going to say, Slurpy's looking uncontested for having the best loot in the game. Feel like everybody knew who was landing there. Probably not much of a surprise that they win this game. How is the rest of it looking like? Like, is there any spots that are heavily conned? Dirty Dogs. Okay, Dirty Dogs is looking mad conned. Me and DJ did land here during one of this actual tournament in the opens. And you can really easily split a huge amount of this. So despite the fact there's like a ton of loot here, you can really just stay in Storm. You can do whatever. You can play it for a long time. Really big, like, open areas. Like, you know, mid-map here. Like, almost nobody. Maybe, you know, maybe it's the Peterbilt Poyo aura, of course. You never know. One team above. It does seem like there's going to be probably, like, definitely enough drop spots to have every team land at the Pro-Am and get plenty of loot. So I don't think like contesting and fighting off spawn is going to be overly that important. Now, one thing I want to see is, so they won the game and they did not get rebooted once. I think that's important. So, we have a sample size of one match. They were not keying. They weren't doing anything crazy. The loadout choice is also interesting. Well, okay, maybe not. It's because the loadout choice is interesting because he's taking a pistol and a pump, and no spray weapon is Poyo got spray. Okay, Poyo's got the mythic stinger, which is insanely overpowered as well. But most players are just Peterbot himself not opting to run a spray weapon. It's kind of crazy. The one thing that I think is really important here is like 128 builds. From playing the tournament and also playing out a little bit of just reload itself, the material harvesting rate in this feels really slow. So if you leave your POI, it does feel incredibly difficult to actually just get anything back. Like, if you have to harvest cat mats after you've been rebooted, it takes forever. So I think making sure that you end up getting something off spawn, so like getting cat mats and then just chilling, is really, really important. Interesting, they're actually disengaging from what should be two easy elims there. Pete making the call actually to dip out of a zone fight early on, maybe because he's seeing this far zone. It's not really actually that far at all, but interesting that he decided to dip. Like, those two players just spawned. They could be free kills, but he's not keying. I'm imagining prioritizing positioning, potentially. In terms of loadout, they're also both opting to run shockwave grenades as well. So a lot of players run double grappler that I've seen so far, but it seems like Pete and Poyo are looking currently to take these shockwaves. It's kind of everyone else running. Sticks and stones. Nothing, no mobility, shockwaves, crash pads. Bit of a variety generally. Now, Akira and Kurama did really well. I think they won EU. There's 3 cheaters won 3 games, and they're the only one who won another one. And then they qualified in NA. So they've obviously got something right. And they're also running Mammoth Pistol Pump, Minis Heals, and then shockwaves. And then also, yeah, shockwaves on the other one. So this kind of loadout with one player just running pistol, one player running pump seems to be good. Maybe we'll watch one of their NA games as well after this. Or EU game, sorry. Important note, as the third zone appears, as it is here, which, as I mentioned earlier, is the first partial, I think this is when the first supply drops spawn as well. That's what it is in public matches. I'm saying this, and they are... Oh, there we go. There you go. Yet to spawn. So 3 spawn at the top. That's important to know. I do wonder if these predict where the next zone is going to appear or not, right? But my theory here would be that in the third zone, I think they spawn in the 3rd, 4th, and what did I write? 6th zones. So if you get centered on like a 3rd, 4th, and 6th zone, you can then like wait for it to appear, and you probably have the highest chance of grabbing one if you need some additional loot and mats. Also, as I mentioned, Akira and Kurama, who did really well in EU and have qualified on NA on high ping from EU, are full center 3rd zone here. Fully center. I actually don't know where they dropped, so... obviously, these guys are really good at this game mode, and they're just going center 3rd. Refarming out a building. Let's see. Remember those 3 spawned up to the top? So those 3 spawned up to the top, and unsurprisingly, we had a zone that also pulled this direction. So now that these 3 have spawned here in the 4th zone, I'm imagining the 5th zone is going to pull back. So are these supply drops showing where the next zone is going to appear? Also, Peterbot and Poyo, like I said, who won this game, pushed heavily for that supply drop there. Bolt's got one. That's the second one they've got, so they got absolutely stacked on this. I'm imagining the zone is going to pull back this way. Let's see. Ooh, interesting. That's, everyone has forecast. So, I don't think they spawn in this zone. So, this is the 5th zone, if I'm right. Yep, this is the 5th zone. So, there's none that spawn here. But when the 6th zone appears, there's going to be more that spawn there. I think that's the last set of drops. So I think there's 3 different sets of drops. Let's have a look, shall we? Let's see if our theory is coming true. 6th zone or 7th. I mean, if they spawn down there, that'd be crazy. This is the 7th zone. 7th zone? Sorry, this is the 6th zone. My bad, I'm an NPC. Okay, so there doesn't seem to be any that spawn here. So it appears there's only, in the competitive mode, there's only drops on the 3rd and 4th zone, which you should relatively easily be able to predict the next zones. I'll look at another game to make sure that's actually true, because this is just one game. Maybe it was just a coincidence, you never know. But yeah, only the 3rd and the 4th zones as they appear, which should predict the next few zones. So this is 2nd zone appears, and there's no supply drops. Oh, there are. Okay, there's one up there and one there. So I've marked them on the screen. Yellow and yellow. Let's see if this actually shows. And that was the 2nd zone. So it seems like 2 spawn in the 2nd zone. And would you look at that? Both are in the zone. Now here are the ones for the 3rd zone. And drum roll. Ooh, they're all in the next zone. Now that the 4th zone's appeared, seems like a pretty obvious location. And, ooh, the zone pops there. What a surprise. Okay, okay. Now this is the 5th zone. I actually don't know if there's one's guaranteed spawn. Should be 2 that spawn in the 5th zone as well. So it seems like in the 5th zone, there's not like a guaranteed spawn, because there was in the previous game. The one before that, the Peterbot game, didn't seem to be one. And this game, there isn't any there. So it seems like, just from what I've seen so far, there's guaranteed spawns in the 3rd and 4th zones, but not 100% spawns in the 2nd and 5th. Don't hold me to that. It's only 3 games I've looked at, though. Anyway, let's go back, see what Peterbot and Poy were doing. This was after they grabbed the supply drop at the edge of the zone. I guess this is why we're running the pistol. Yeah, okay, easy kill. Yeah, whether this is intentional or not, you'll see the player spawns in the sky. He reboots. There we go. And as he falls, Peterbot basically waits for his glider to deploy, because obviously he's no longer, like, flying crazy quickly there. Then, and also you're not infinite HP, because obviously there's like spawn immunity, and then just waits and then shoots him afterwards. So yeah, free kill. Same thing but earlier in the game as well. Yeah, that is one of the things, right? What point does the reboot? Reboot ends when the 7th zone appears. Yeah, so the reboot ends when the 7th zone appears, and this is like the 5th zone in a stat game. Surely it is impossible, and I mean truly impossible, to actually land. Like when you have some of the best players in the world spawning here, it must be crazy difficult. So getting center on like 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th zones, kind of up until the end of the point where the reboots are ending, you could just get so many free elim points because you just wait for someone to spawn out of the sky and just farm them over and over again. So if you don't know, these zones in the tournament mode are entirely different from what they are in pubs. And I actually went through and I did a whole little spreadsheet, and I was getting all my notes and my stats, and then I realized that they're not the same as the tournament modes. So first thing that's important to notice, I'll tell you the times in a second, and I'll show you the spreadsheet. Yeah, so the one thing you'll notice is the wait times are really short. So like 25 seconds, 40 seconds for a lot of these, in comparison to pubs where they're a little bit higher. I couldn't be bothered. This is the pub zones. I couldn't be bothered to figure out what they were because I just gave up when I realized they were different. So that actually shows in a few ways. But more importantly than the timings, right, which you can copy if you look there, is the actual zones themselves are way different. Notice, this is the 3rd zone. There's 12 zones total, and it's already a partial. So it's already sticking out of the previous zone there, and that's only going to get crazier as the zones go on. So if we keep playing, we skip forward and go to the 4th zone, another partial, 5th zone, another partial, 6th zone, another max partial, 7th zone, outside. So you could technically call the 7th of the 12 zones first moving if you really want to. I think this is more like the end of the mid-game where it's like another outside. And then from here on, I think that's when there's no wait times. Yeah, so this, once the 8th zone appears here and it's like fully outside like this is the last wait time. If you notice here, oops, I've done that wrong. Come on, Windows, thank you. Notice there's no more wait times after this here. So once the 8th zone appears, this is the final wait. And then it's all just going to be moving zones. There's actually a ton of moving zones. Like it's, how long in total from this point? 310. 6 minutes of moving zones. Did I do that right? Is that the right math? 5 minutes of moving zones. So it's kind of the same as like a normal end game. So the easy way to think about it, first 2 zones are going to be like regular shrinking zones. 3 to 7 are the partials. This one's fully outside. And then 8 to 12 is all moving zones after that point. Now, I think what that also means is it's really stupid to fight between the 3rd and that kind of 7th zone as well. Because if you die, then you are over. It's wraps for you because you are not spawning out of the sky in like a stacked level game. So if you're going to take fights, take them early. If not, you need to really minimize risk in the end game. And I think that's why Peterbot and Poyo are just not doing anything, right? Like, they're just not keying. They're not doing anything crazy aggressive at this point because I don't think the risk is worth it. If you have to respawn, it's over. Yeah, pretty much every rotation also, like, for the late mid-game here. Remember, as I said, it's incredibly risky, but the vast majority of their rotates are just them using the shockwaves. So I think minimizing the risk as much as possible. Oh my god, Cooper almost got put in the full piece as I was mentioning that. Minimizing risk in the late mid-game, incredibly important. Also, being on height in areas like this is so nuts when you have the Mammoth Pistol because a lot of the rotations are either crash pads where you're going to fly through the sky, shockwaves where you're going to sit and slowly fly through the sky, or grapplers where players are relatively easy to hit. So just sitting in like, oh my god, I was going to say sitting in positions like this where you're easily going to be able to like shoot people with the Mammoth Pistol. Really, really good. I like that he's not like over committing to height in this instance because like he has a grappler. If you get chopped, you can just grapple back up again. It's not really that important. Maybe now Zone's pulled, he is actually going to commit. Maybe just ignore what I'm saying. Maybe I'm just an NPC. Is he going to be able to hold it the entire time? Because like this is still like a full tournament endgame with 5 minutes of moving zones. So 47 builds and 24, like that's not enough to keep it held the entire time. It's also problematic taking this pistol. Like you're going to be able to get kills as players are flying. And obviously it does insane structure damage, so you can pressure a lot of people. But the chance of you actually getting like an elim is so low. Plus, like, the ability to just spray someone and damage them even, like, say, 50 adds up tons when you're playing on height. Not a single person has looked up a height this entire game, by the way. Not one single person has looked up. Also, they're playing high enough, something that's important, to be out of shockwave range. So, a lot of the times, if you play relatively low height, so if you played on, like, this layer, a player could just shockwave you out and chop you out. So, by playing up a little bit higher, as long as you have something to catch your fall damage, right? Like, just wait, does Poyo have anything? No, Poyo just have shockwaves. So if they get chopped, Poyo's literally just dead. Which is a little risky, I was going to say. But Peterbot has the grappler, right? So he can prevent, like, the fall damage if he needs to. I guess they did have enough mats. I didn't think they would have enough mats, but the fact that no one has looked up has just meant that they haven't been chopped. They've not wasted anything at all. Like, tarping in single wood. Like, how has no one done anything? I guess maybe, I mean, the pressure they're putting down is insanely good, but still, that's kind of crazy. This didn't even go to the final moving so far. There we go. Finally been chopped. Somehow Poyo did not die. They're going up. Shockwave chops him out. Sprays out the floor. Nice. A little bit of fall damage. Peterbot dead. So is Zen in the backside. Lovely angle from Poyo and picks up the kill. Nice. Okay. All right, so Akira and Kurama on EU are landing split, kind of on the outside, interesting, of Dirty Docks, and then also in this building. What is there? So in terms of barrels, so Akira land here, where he's able to get the Slurp truck. Kurama's over on this side, where he's got enough barrels himself as well to, was that 8? Yeah, you got 8 as well. I can do basic arithmetic. Nice. What about chests? Chests we have not a huge amount here. And obviously, they're not working with too much, but I guess you don't really actually need that much. You just need to survive off spawn, most importantly. It's still the first zone. They've looted all that, and now they've disappeared. So they're already rotating deep. So super early rotates, and instantly focusing on getting just good mats. 60 builds, 80 builds. I'm guessing they're probably going to go center and refarm. That's what it looked like from the previous zone, from the previous game. However, they do have a full southeast zone, so maybe going to go a little bit more central down here or something. Oh no, there's just more loot. Okay, so they're actually taking like a scavenger looting path. I guess this also makes sense to do a bit more of a scavenger looting path here because most players who spawn are going to end up landing in like a POI. Like they're going to land somewhere like this, or they're going to go into Dirty Docks and try to get loot. So by kind of taking like a massive split across, say, all of this kind of loot, something like this, there's less chance that these are going to be taken, and you can rotate and loot at the same time. So if they needed to go up to like the top left, for example, they can loot as they rotate, they can get mats as they can rotate and all that kind of stuff. They're on a supply drop, the one that spawned in the second zone. Maybe they also just came for this. Managed to grab it, but they are getting snuck up on, it would seem like. Yeah, Crusher sitting hiding. I don't think they know. No, surely you see him. Oh my... Is that a snipe? A hunting rifle headshot? Is this one of the cheaters? Let me watch that first and then we check. Surely that's not a legit player. Who would do that in this scenario? Oh, that's a cheater. Surely. I have checked the Fortnite tracker and it does not actually seem like they were cheating. So maybe this guy's just the GOAT. And yeah, kind of similar to what I said before. Like, if you land and you know some of the loot kind of around these areas, not in the POIs, you can actually get stacked pretty quick. Because Kurama landed on a Slurp truck, instantly got his HP back, and now 2 chugged... Okay, maybe he's just the RNG GOAT at the same time. But yeah, you're actually able to get a bunch of loot back. So they end up winning this game. I was going to say they're scuffed. Like, inventory-wise, I mean, outside of the weapons on Akira, the Kurama's... Like, their heals are insane. Like, how has he got 2 Slurp juices as well? I need to maybe check that. Did he get the supply drops? Maybe that was it. But no builds, 50 builds. So how do they actually end up getting stacked from this? So yeah, does the supply drop guarantee a Slurp juice? I don't think it does. No, it doesn't. It's good RNG, I guess? Yeah, just got good RNG. Just found it from chest. That is insanely lucky, I'll be honest. This loadout's gotten even more wild. Get the Dragon's Breath. Dragon's Breath Hot Rock. Hot Rock Julies is a crazy combo. Alright, Crash Pad. They're not even playing this with, like, crazy mats. It's not like they've focused on getting like super capped mats there. Most of those like mid-late rotations, similar to what we saw with Peter Bottom Poil, also seem to just be doing with your mobility. Like Crash Pad, Shockwave, whatever it is. These are the rotations that you're the most likely to really die on, to be honest. So using some of your mobility relatively early makes a lot of sense. I guess in that instance, someone just falls in the box and it's the freest one pump of your life. But he dropped it. Okay, he dropped it for a grey pump. Maybe he's not so fond of that. Maybe he just didn't have any other options. Shockwave first moving. Spraying through. Good claims from Kurama. Getting to a good position before shockwaving to make sure he doesn't just land in someone's box. That's a very, very, very good idea. All too common. Oh, someone in the box. Dead. Free kill. Is there siphon in this, actually? I've just thought about that now. I don't know if there's white siphon in this. Okay, somehow fumbled the shockwave. Down to front low. Yeah, because of those 2 kills, like, they have so many mats still in 10th zone. 67, 78. So they're basically just tarping and they have a bunch of whites. I feel like this is just going to be heal-off meta, maybe. Old Reload was obviously kind of like that, but the whole moving zones change was, I think, made to intentionally make this more competitive. It's a lot of tarping, and then the zone just pulls back through their tarp. All the whites going to Akira. Look at this loadout. He doesn't even have a gun. He's not even got a weapon, bro. He's ready to play heal off. Oh, he's got the Julies. Okay, okay. Yeah, with the zone pullback through their own metal tarp. They have to do nothing. That's crazy. All right, fight starts to engage, but what feels like 20 minutes later. Akira's already back. He shockwaves miles away. Oh my god, almost dies to Storm. Oh! Hits the med. Kurama's going a little crazy at the front side. He just kills them. But had he not, with that zone pullback, like, there is a 0 chance Akira loses that heal off. Still have 47 builds, right? I wonder if you can basically get yourself through a mid-game with relatively good mats and heals and mobility, more importantly. Like, the shockwaves there cut off so many rotations and save them so many mats. It's really not as fraggy as I thought it would be, because I thought there'd be like way higher elim games, but honestly playing slow and conservative is way, way, way more important. So I feel like people who have a good game plan, like the Queasies and will probably... And Queasy Nicky 30, are they going to win? Maybe? Who knows? Yeah, I think a prime example of what I was talking about with the low elims, Shark and Pixie, 2 of the players who are most likely just to WKU in the finals, went 2 elims, 0 and 5. And that was a second place and a second place. Also, in terms of damage, the 1-ticks last quite a long time. How many seconds is that? 1-tick zones are 536 seconds. 9.1 minutes of one-tick zones. Now, obviously, one of the major selling points of this map is named Slurp Rush. There's a lot of Slurp, unsurprisingly. So, of course, a lot of the drop spots you're going to land it at. In terms of playing Storm, you know, there's almost definitely going to still be barrels left in some of those locations. So there'll be some strategies where players are going to be able to play through the Storm, take the extra heals from the barrels and rotate around. Also, I've not got the boilers are on. That's all those ones. The Slurp trucks as well, of course, which are massive. So I'm sure a lot of the teams are going to be landing pretty much directly on a Slurp truck. Of course, Slurpy itself is going to be a heavily contested drop spot come the Pro-Am later. But yeah, just with all of the Slurp and healing generally, I think Storm playing with the 9 minutes of the ability of like one tick, like I think this is going to be really, really powerful. On top of that, there's also a bunch of launch pads around the map. Now, I tested this, and this one over here. This is actually on a high elevation, so you can actually pad from here almost to this pad, and here from almost to this pad. So if you're going to play Storm, you know, you could probably... Let me check if there's actually a bunch of Slurp in that corner. There's not a huge amount of Slurp in that corner, unfortunately. So you can't, like, camp there, use that pad to go to another one. But there isn't here. So, for example, if you were going to, you know, launch pad from this spot here, in Storm, you know, you can grab the extra barrels here, launch pad here, you get to around this point, which I'm sure there's some more barrels. So, you know, there is mobility in the map, but also like on the loot pool, there's already tons of like crashes and things you can already use to rotate through the Storm. All right, neither of the maps, Fortnite GG doesn't have it either. Assyrian also doesn't have it, but yeah, also if you're going to be playing Storm, using a lot of the mending machines to use the patch up, if you can get gold, it's going to be important. I actually don't know how you get gold in this. I've not thought about that yet. Obviously, opening chests and looting will be a big way. But I don't know if there's any cool strategies where you can get a ton of gold so you can use the mending machines. Now, one thing I also want to test is, of course, all the way around Slurpy, there is the Slurp water that's actually there, which heals you for 1 tick a second. I want to see if you can still heal off in Storm using that as well, because you could basically sit in Storm for 9 minutes as other players die. If you get cat mats, you could probably just sit here and heal up. So I'll test that once the Storm catches up. All right, finally, here comes the Storm. So I want to see if Epic have managed to turn off this healing in the Storm or not. All right, so it does deactivate, so you actually can't sit inside and just heal. So as you notice, this is no longer like bright and... Oh no, it is healing you still. Does it just not heal in the Storm? I was going to say, it's not visibly as bright as it was over there, I swear. It's now many hours later, and I realize I forgot to go over the duos list and also sign off the video. So here are all of the duos that are playing in the Pro-Am in the next couple of weeks. I'm sure most of you already know that. I'm going to do like a full predictions video when we see the drop map, kind of just before the actual event itself. But some people I think will be absolute heater teams. Somerset, Thomas HD, Loki, a bit of a kook. Both Unreal players. Of course, Somerset is probably one of the best creators here. Like if you're looking at the list of creators, who might potentially be better than her? I would say Ronaldo, maybe Nate Hill. I'm not sure how good he still is. Not Nicky30, but Nicky30's close. And Lacey. Sorry, I missed Lacey. So she's like probably top 3 creators here, I would think. So this is definitely a good team. Cooper Zemi would be good if... I mean, Zemi's aim's going to be insane. And obviously what we looked at earlier in the video is really, really... You know, aim is going to be a lot if you play super slow, kill people out of the sky. So they could get a lot of elims that way. Cammy's probably going to cook up a couple strats. These guys ain't even spoken yet. Vino, again, similarly, Reddish has got really good aim too. So Vino could definitely put them in a position to do really well. I think like the big teams who are looking to actually compete for the win would be Clicks and Lacey. Lacey made heats last year. Like he was an active competitor. Was it last year or the year before that? So he was at a good level competitively, like way higher than basically all of the rest. I think Booga Typical Gamer might be pretty good as well. I don't think Typical Gamer is like anywhere near as good as Lacey or Somerset, but maybe close up there. Queasy Nicky30, Loki could be a kook. Like whenever we watch Nicky30, he's usually on relatively high ping, and Queasy, like the gameplay is probably going to be relatively like IGL driven, and I would say like not practice, that's not the right word, but like thought provision. You know, it's not like a crazy W key game, kind of like we've seen before. A lot of consistency is going to be important. And again, like Canada and Stable Ronaldo are also more than likely going to be good. They're both FNCS champions, you know, even though Ronaldo did win with Unknown and the guy who got banned later on. Can't remember who it was. Still. Yeah, also I think these guys from Brazil might be relatively good too. Felix Power, I think, has made grands or multiple heats at least, or semifinals on the Brazil region. Not 100%. Of course, Peterbot Aussie. Basically, all Ozzy needs to do is just have mats and just drop Peterbot, and then he can probably win it himself. Like, subscribe, and watch whatever that video is there.